Oh, Lottie.
This show is going to become more and more stupid as I get more competent at AV production and making videos. I was just giving Alex Cosma my plans for the intro video that I'm going to have for this channel. It is going to be very stupid. It is going to be for adults or silly children.
I'm gonna have to start every stream in a sleep mask just so I don't see it.
Just like we're going to do, there is a purpose to the stupidity. Actually, there's a purpose to the stupidity. Like there's a purpose to the drinking. There's a purpose to the whiskey. It's entirely to get everyone off their guard because I don't want people to take stuff seriously. And at any point, you could say like, if you could go on a 10-minute tangent on this show and then realize you're completely wrong and be like, I was just talking out of my ass. It must be the liquor talking or something like that. And we'll just drop it because that's how people talk. That's how people think. Like. I don't like this internet where it's like every single thing you say, it's like a deposition, right?
Right.
Like you can say stupid. I want people to say stupid shit because stupid shit is interesting. Because sometimes, speaking of stupid shit, sometimes stupid shit brings on the most interesting discussions.
Right.
Speaking of Warhammer.
Well, that's also true of like childhood upbringing and like, it like fucking teenagers, like how miserable it must be to be a teenager, particularly a teenage boy in the age of smartphones with cameras.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
That just seems fucking awful. Like it's essentially, and like not even necessarily that boys would get up to anything like seriously bad. I mean, I didn't when I was a teenager, but like you're essentially creating like a permanent panopticon with the entire world for your entire life, and like that's fucking terrifying. That shit sucks.
And the only way to liberate those young men is to be even dumber on the internet. It's like, imagine you have a son and he's been embarrassed by something on social media that someone got an image of him doing. Like, I don't know, he went into like the 7-Eleven wearing like crappy jeans. So it's like, all right, to save my son, I've going into the 7-Eleven wearing Daisy Dukes and flip-flops, full cheeks out. I'm going to save you, my son. Something, just neighborhood stupidity. That's kind of what saves most of politicians. Is like something even dumber is going to happen extremely soon. You have to have some pocket stupid. Yeah, Benign. It's all good, man. Appreciate your pre-show talk. He's busy visiting friends. He has a social life. He has real friends.
Lucky not dog.
So today's discussion is going to be triggering for a lot of people because we are far more emotionally invested to fictional things than we are real things, which is actually, I think, the mentally healthy thing to do. I want to talk about what is the more useful mythos because I hear Lord of the Rings brought up a lot and I hear 40K brought up even more. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is a mythos? What is the point of stories, really? Like you'll hear people, you'll hear libertarians are always saying like, hey, don't wear the ring, that sort of stuff, because that's what they got from it, I guess. Tolkien was not a fan of allegory, so he did not mean anything else by the ring. He just meant the ring. That's from what I can tell. And I'll take him at his word. So all the allegory is made without his permission, yet we do it anyway because it's hard not to when you have a story, right? Like the story means something bigger than itself. Whereas,
I think I've said this before. That the left was right. All art is in fact political. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be allegorical or allegory mind, or even that one can do that fruitfully. I mean, while I agree with all art is political, because insofar as it presents a vision of society, human organization, and the human soul and natural dispositions, I'm also very much like a new school of criticism guy. Like, you don't read into works, you only read out. Biblical exegesis is the model for all literary interpretation.
Yeah, the funny thing is I keep seeing a lot of political moral analysis. I see more moral analysis come out of 40K analogies than I do Lord of the Rings. And I'll tell you why I think so in a minute. Right? Like Lord of the Rings, first off, like useful mythos. We're not talking about what's a better story, okay? Because if you actually read Alex Cosby here has actually tried to read some of the Warhammer 40K novels. I have not. I just listen to Luton. I'm a complete tourist. I think. By the way, everyone's a friggin' tourist, or you're the one nerd who knows everything, right? One nerd to rule them all, and then to that nerd, you're a tourist. It's like when you're dealing with Jewish people. Is like everyone who's more strict with their covenants is crazy, and everyone who's less strict is going to hell. It's kind of the same thing with nerd culture.
Well, so I'm not up on a lot of new 40K lore. Like I played 40K for years and years and years, and eventually stopped because while it is probably one of, if not the single best like IPs out there, the minis game fucking sucks. It sucks out loud.
That's funny.
Yeah, you do War Machine. Yeah. So one of the problems with 40K is it's an over 40-year-old game, and it definitely feels its age. Like a lot of aspects of it are very, very antiquated and just haven't gotten a lot of attention. So like I switched over to War Machine a while back. Really enjoy it. Great rule set for competition, great for playing. The world is interesting enough, although when it comes to politics, it is essentially late 20th, like the politics / like metaphysical, like political propositions of the setting are essentially that of like late 20th century liberalism. So it's not like shocking or transgressive or especially morally bold.
It's funny because like for Warhammer 40K, their IP, right, their storytelling kind of starts with human nature and just the conditions that people are in, and then works its way from there based on some beginning principles. Other than making the Emperor into an edgy atheist, a lot of it is just okay. What does this lead to, right? Like their stuff about AI, right? Like in the dark age of technology, that's when because 40K is built on almost every single sci-fi end of human civilization narrative, right? And of course, end of human civilization includes an AI uprising. So they had one already. Like by the time you get to 40K.
Well, 40K just in terms of background is like one of the most like its origins are basically all plagiarism. Like this Games Workshop was started by 3 potheads in a van with a mural on the side of it, which I don't think is actually an exaggeration.
That's funny.
And they're like reading Moorcock and reading like Frank Herbert and all these different things, like watching Star Wars and cobbling together. Yeah. Like there's actually very few original elements in 40K.
That's right.
It's almost completely derivative, but it's like a masterwork patchwork quilt of stolen derivative elements that form something unique and compelling.
Well, and the creative part of 40K is how it is able to put that world together, like put these dissonant parts together in a narrative that doesn't feel like it's forced, right? It feels like right. So if you could, I don't know what the number of hours of content of like the top Warhammer lore channel versus the top Lord of the Rings lore channel. But I would say that 40K is very rich with the amount of fiction and lore. But the forcing of things to be together, like that sort of mortar on the bricks, is kind of what makes 40K so compelling. That's all the creative work, and that actually leads. That's kind of a ground up way to build your universe, because you're starting with some first principles a little bit, and you're seeing how things would interact. Like we could pick a topic and setting within 40K and have a long discussion, and here's the kill shot, the TLDR, right? The thing that's going to piss off a lot of nerds is like, my thesis here is I think that Warhammer 40K is a more interesting conversation piece that reflects our actual world than Lord of the Rings tends to be, and tends to be more useful, which is why I put useful. I didn't say like in terms of writing quality, in terms of transformative creative work, because obviously, like as we said, like Warhammer 40K is not terribly, like it's creative in how it pushes these pieces together, but it is built on massive amounts of plagiarism. And whereas Tolkien is almost entirely original, yes, it's inspired by different Norse and Celtic mythologies and such, but it is itself a very transformative work that stands on its own. Whereas you could like look at 40K and be like, oh yeah, that's where they got this thing from. Oh yeah, they took these from Terminator. Like the Necrons are from Terminator. You know, the orcs are from Lord of the Rings.
Well, I mean, they also that is, there is a weird thing, like Games Workshop does actually have one original, like genuinely original, enduring contribution to like fantasy imagery and iconography, which is orcs being green.
Yeah.
That's a GW original.
Yeah, greenskins.
Mm-hmm.
Which they probably just saw some art for orcs and were like, that art looks good. So it's like someone's like, when was the first green orc? Who really drew or made that? But yes, yeah.
But this was, you know, made like, it was a setting cobbled together by a bunch of Nottingham lads listening to like Hawkwind and Genesis in their painted van. You know, it definitely went through a silly phase and then like had to have like a codification, almost like, you know, like a major conclave or something, like put its lore together into a coherent picture rather than things that were just added for a lark.
And weirdly enough, I think the lore, like I'm kind of with Dirty Engineer here. I think the lore is actually way more interesting. The lore in the media are way more interesting than the actual game. Like the actual game itself is actually kind of a small part, especially since they're moving into computer games now. I mean, look at all the Warhammer games that came out in the past 3 years. It's like you have Rogue Trader, you have was it Dawn of War, you got Dark Tide, all this good stuff. Well, even Vermintide, right? That's Warhammer, although it's Warhammer Fantasy. But yeah, there's a lot more to talk about. And the thing that first off, I want to talk about what is a mythology and what is it for, as a piece of technology, as you'd say, right? Like, what does a mythos do? I can give you my shake on that.
No, yeah. Give me your shake, because it's something that I have like. It's something that I have like thoughts about that I've never attempted to codify, really.
Yeah, let's try to codify. Let's go in there crazy and dirty. A mythos is a story that creates an identity, a moral system, either creates or reinforces, right? So creates, reinforces. It's part of that. Creates or reinforces an identity and moral system that helps coalesce a people's. That's what I think a mythos is, right? So if you look at a mythos, like the Old Testament is the Torah is a mythos for the Jewish people, right? And if you look at their mythical figures, you have got a lot of prophets. You also have King David, you have Moses, Abraham. Those are all mythical figures. Noah, mythical figure. And they have, and I started like comparing, okay, these are the different mythoses. And people call Lord of the Rings a mythos. I started thinking, like, is Lord of the Rings actually a good mythos? Because I don't think it's a good piece of mythological technology. The morals of Lord of the Rings is very much be brave, do the right thing, don't give up hope. I don't want morally great. By the way, everyone pushes back on this by saying, like, whoa, you just want morally great characters. No, that's not what a mythos is. A mythos usually has human characters, right? But they're forced to make decisions that do not have a outright morally correct thing to do, right? A good mythos is something where you actually have to debate over it. Like no one's having a debate over what Aragorn should have done in Lord of the Rings, or Aragorn, sorry. No one's having a debate on like what Samwise Gamgee should have done. That's why the one thing I would have done to change the Lord of the Rings mythos to make it more compelling as a piece of mythological technology is at the end when Frodo turns and the ring corrupts him, Sam is forced to throw him in. It's not like a happy accident of Gollum, because Gollum is there to pretty much rob Sam of any need of moral sacrifice. Because what life really is you have two different moralities. You have two different morals outcomes, and now they're in conflict. It's like the loyalty between your father and your mother. If you had to choose, and it's not a morally great character that makes that choice. It's just a human character, right? I got cat butt view. Did you mean to do that?
I did not. Oh, she turned on my camera.
Your cat's starting an OnlyFans. It's only felines.
Oh my god,
that'd be funny as hell.
She's a tricky scamp.
That is so funny. Did I ever tell you? Oh, that's right. I told you in DMs, but I bought the URL for manfuckswoman.com. I thought that was very funny. And I was thinking like, because there was a discussion on Lotus Eaters of like, why is porn so degenerate? Which is, by the way, a very funny thing to say. And I thought that was just a funny discussion. It was like, why isn't just there porn for normal people? Like just your storyline is man fucks woman. Why is that so difficult? And I was like, let me see if that's available. And it is, and I bought it. And I was like, it's manfuckswoman.com, normal porn for normal people. It's just like hyper normal. It's just, you know what? It would just be re-uploads of Playboy from like 50 years ago. Like, here you go. This is what normal people used to. This is what normal people used to use. Just like your granddad. This is some World War II memorabilia in here too. Why not?
Oh man,
women don't like. It'd be so funny. Just wholesome porn for wholesome people. Anyways, the use of a mythos. Why exactly. This channel is taking an odd trajectory. You're damn right. I wouldn't have it any other way. The use of a mythos is to tell your culture, to give your culture a discussion point about who it is that they are. So in one way, a mythos is an exploration of moral quandaries, which acts as a mirror for yourselves. Like, it doesn't necessarily tell you what to do. It just gives you actions and consequences of other men, right? So when Odysseus is under threat from the Cyclops, and he pokes the Cyclops' eye out and then says, my name is nobody, right? And nobody has blinded me. It's like, you could think that Odysseus is a bad guy for doing that. You could also think he's very clever. You could think a lot of things. The problem is, like, I don't think Lord of the Rings is a great mythos in that way, because there's really kind of one way to think about Samwise Gamgee, is that he's a good dude. He never had to do anything that was terribly, other than he mistreated. So there's two characters in Lord of the Rings that I think actually are very mythological. And that's, Take a guess which characters you think I would refer to. So you can guess it.
What, Gollum and...
You got it.
Boromir?
Mm-hmm. It's so obvious when you think about it. Those are the two actual tragic mythological characters. Because they are forced to make decisions, and they are forced to have to go through a transformation, and they are not just a caricature. Like, Denethor is kind of looked upon as like, this is a man who is a victim of his circumstance, and that's it. That's what I'm saying. Like, Samwise Gamgee could join that short list of proper mythological figures in Lord of the Rings if Samwise had to throw Frodo into the volcano. He had to kill his best friend, his traveling mate. Because then you have a discussion of, he didn't betray his mission, but he did betray his master. Because Frodo was his master, his compatriot. Like, it would start to give you a discussion of like, what loyalty is more important? The loyalty to value, the loyalty to your civilization, or the loyalty to the people around you? And like, are you willing to, because also throwing him in would be like, there's no hope of turning him around, right? Like, you could leave Mount Doom and then try to talk Frodo into giving up the ring or steal the ring or do something else. But like, taking a final action, being decisive is always morally ambiguous, which is why you find people that are very morally stunted do not enjoy it when leaders take decisive action. Because there's always you could have's. Right? So, yeah, the mythological figures of like the Hebrew religion, Jewish people, is like King David is a good example. Like, he made bad decisions that are human decisions, and he had to pay the price for them. But he also had to make decisions that are not obviously correct. Like, another good example would be Gilgamesh. Like, on his hunt, he seems very remorseful that he hunted down the beast, right, and slayed it. Even though that's what he's supposed to do, that's what great men are supposed to do. He still feels a bit remorseful for it, right? And he almost begs you to ask, was that the right thing to do? And that's why I think that, oddly enough, Lord of the Rings doesn't really demand that you ask what's the right thing to do. Like, Boromir is a character whose decisions were clearly wrong and then were clearly redemptive. Gollum is clearly a victim. So even though they are the most mythological figures in Lord of the Rings, they're useful enough to be helpful for some people. Like, people who are addicts understand Gollum very well. Men who are desperate to protect their own people will identify with Boromir. But there's not a lot of discussion about what is or isn't the right thing to do in their position. Like you kind of clearly see that was like Boromir did the wrong thing by trying to take the ring off of Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is some discussion of like, could he have used it to defend his people, sort of thing. Like, would that be the right thing? We know the answer to it, but he didn't, right? And that's kind of what makes it not super useful as a mythology. It's like you're supposed to, as the listener, the reader, whoever, the mythology, is this supposed to be a thing you debate the morals, right? So anyway,
I don't know. It's often like, if you look at, something like Hesiod or like Hesiod's Theogony or Gilgamesh or stuff like that, like they're not really framed as like debates. They're more sort of framed as like parables or like illustratives. Like the underlying moral principles, it's not necessarily making them, it's more weaving them together in a story that's like, shareable. Essentially like for a mythology to match a people, nobody disagrees about what the rightness or wrongness is of the morality it shows.
Right, those are more instructive moralities. There might be a distinction between instructive and, I don't know, reflective morality tales, right? A reflective morality tale might be a morality tale where it does ask the reader to engage in the debate, whereas an instructor would be more about, this is the right thing to do. These are our values. One thing I don't really mesh with George R.R. Martin's critique of Lord of the Rings, because George R.R. Martin, well, I don't know all of them, so I'm going to try to recall what they are. Like there's no discussion of like sex or religion or different parts of human nature. I do agree with that. Like, and maybe that's just not the story that Tolkien wanted to tell. But one of the problems is that I guess I find instructive morality tales to be far less instructive than reflective morality tales, because reflective morality tales kind of force you to have skin in the game. Like pivot over to Warhammer 40K of like, was the Emperor right to in his actions, and which actions, right? Like that's actually a difficult tale. Like it was funny because the Flash Gets guys, Tom and Don, had a video out. I think was it today I think it was today, where they talk about are the Imperium the bad guys, and they're kind of sort of facetiously saying nope, they're totally justified. But a lot of reasons they are justified. Like they cannot tolerate any Xenos because it's always turned out bad in their past. Like it's just a tradition that they had to learn.
Well, I mean, 40K is also like, 40K and Lord of the Rings both deal with subversion, sort of, at the core of a lot of what's going on. It's a bit IQ bell curve-ish, because you can do the facetious, jokey, like, nope, Imperium's totally justified, obviously the good guys. And then you can think about it a bit and you can be like, oh, well, the other side has like blah, blah, blah. And then I think you come back at it from the transcendent perspective of like, no, the Imperium is 100% justified.
Yeah. And it's the level of danger that they're in, right? Like, it would have been interesting if in the Lord of the Rings, Frodo and Sam are trying to make it to the countryside and they have to like murder and rob to survive the journey. Like they're just going through and like they're running out of, never once did they ever start running out of food. At least that I know of. Or at least it didn't become a thing that they had to address. It was just like, I'm hungry, I must press on. It wasn't like this journey is going to stop if we do not steal the pie from that window, sort of thing. It's like, in other words, Tolkien doesn't really force them to engage with the black and he doesn't force them to engage with grayness. This is why I hate the argument was like, well, you want morally gray characters. I don't. I want good characters who have to make morally gray decisions. It's like, no, this guy is the good guy, right? Like King David is the good guy in the Bible. He's a human being though, and he has to make decisions, and some stuff gets the better of him, right? Like talk to Bathsheba about that, right? So, but like, did you make
something to consider is that like, the making of morally gray decisions and its spiritual appeal, I feel like, is actually like pretty strongly historically mediated, based on the times you are in, and the
Right.
certainty
Yes.
of your moral order. A mythological story or setting, in order to be like mythology, as we've sort of talked about, at least in the, sort of displaying it back at you rather than being an Enchiridion, or like, and engage as training tool. I think is actually like most functioning when it's capturing a coherent and full moral flowering and understanding. So like, yeah, there is kind of an obviousness to it, and that's not necessarily like wrong or
Yeah.
challenging. That's like sort of required for it to be that thing in the first place.
I talked about like,
Versus like, we want our characters to have to make, morally gray decisions, or we want our characters to have to be morally gray themselves, is like, that's a kind of, I would reckon that's a kind of hunger in literary taste,
well,
that is somewhat historically mediated,
yeah,
versus
sure. Well,
versus the relative coherence or breakdown of a moral order.
right. Well, let me give you this one. Okay, so we've been talking about morally gray. Why morally gray? Like, why is that actually important? Because real life is morally gray, and if your stories don't prepare you for real life decisions, then I don't think that's why the stream is called Useful Mythos, because your
Mhm.
stories are there to help try to like mediate your moral. You're supposed to go through these hypothetical moral decisions that are fairly gray, so you can find out where you land, so that when you come upon it in real life, you know exactly what to do. Like if there's some dirty homeless person or something like that who wants a place to stay, I've already made that distinction with my no Xenos thing. It's like, no, you are not staying with me, or I will not allow myself to be weakened by you. You'll get a care package and that's it, kind of thing. Whereas like the problem I see with a lot of people is I feel like we're guided by a lot of moral black and whites, where it's like it's very obvious what the right thing to do is, and we don't really put any thought into why that is. Because it's the more, I guess what I'm saying is the moral grayness compels decision making before it hits real life. And now what I see is a society of people who are so morally stunted that they cannot approach moral grayness in their own life. Like, not to bring politics into it now, but like you'll see that a lot of right wingers who have been saying they want deportations are now completely pussying out when they see what deportations actually look like. It's like, it is going to be dragging people out of their cars. It is going to be grabbing families. Like, this is what we wanted. Like, you weren't ready for the moral grayness of real life to save your own people. However, if you're a 40K fan, you are absolutely ready for this. Like, they're all saying, I am the boot, suffer not the Xenos. It's like, they're on board. Which is funny because like the mythos that people subscribe to actually better prepares them. That's what a mythos is. Like, I don't think that the Abrahamic religion, the Old Testament, was a bunch of just stories. It was there to prepare them for the long haul. That's why they're the old, as far as I can reckon, the oldest cohesive tradition on earth. Is like, because their stories were good and worthy of debate and did prepare them for real life. Gilgamesh probably didn't prepare their people for real life because they're not around anymore. I think the Lord of the Rings is not preparing the West for the moral decisions it must make. You know what I mean? So that's why. Whereas 40K is actually doing a pretty bang up job of prepare, like a 40K conservative versus a Lord of the Rings conservative. Like, who's gonna be more okay with these mass deportations and what it actually looks like? And that's kind of like what spurred this thought. I was like, are you ready for the world where we are the Emperor versus Aragorn, right? Now, we could joke around about Aragorn's tax policy, but it actually would be kind of interesting to see, like, yeah, King Aragorn had to allow nobles to get away with no taxes because nobles are what keeps the trade routes going. And to tax them would be to incense them, sort of thing.
So that's, that's that. When you're talking at certain moral scales, and also like,
yeah,
there's how to say this exactly.
Sure, yeah, take your time. It's all good.
You know,
and say it wrong if you want to.
You know, just saying Aragorn governed wisely is like totally sufficient in my mind.
I mean, sufficient for what purpose, right? Like for a story to work, yeah, absolutely a story to work. But for a people to know what to do, that's what I'm saying. Is a mythos, its use is to prepare people for real life. It's like just a set of moral hypotheticals that force you to go through the exercise in a safe environment, so that when real life hits you, you kind of already know where you lay and what you're willing to and how. Like a lot of life is deciding what kind of villain you want to be, so that you can be the hero you must be. Like our heroes are our enemies. Like Trump is a villain to all of the illegal immigrants, 100%. And I'm like, you just have to be, and so are all the conservatives, so are all the MAGA people. I was like, I just have to be okay with being their villain, so I can be our hero. You know,
right?
That's what I'm saying. Is just the utility of the mythos. Oh yeah. As a dirty engineer, I love the fake right Brits shitting on Trump for not deporting enough people, and now they're doing 100 stating, acting too harsh. Yeah, and they'll blame optics, but it's like, no, the polls are actually pretty good, or made up as usual.
Right.
Like you do the right. Yeah, I see what I'm seeing is I'm seeing like this weird moral bifurcation of people who are just not ready for the real world and want to go back to their theoretical fairy tale, where it's like, it's dude, your enemies are not going to make it clear that they're enemies usually.
Right. Well, that's a problem with subversion too.
Like they're not going to be named Grima Wormtongue and look like a fucking stunt double for White Stripes. Who's the White Stripes guy? Yeah, that guy.
Jack White.
Jack White. That's right. Yeah. There you go. Johnny White. I could have just said John White. Just always John. I love John Zeppelin from Led Zeppelin. Just John Zeppelin. John Rings.
Henry Cavill to play John Warhammer.
John Warhammer. That's right. My favorite Warhammer man. I'm a Warhammer man. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like we are hitting a part where the mythos that people base things on is actually pretty is starting to make a difference on their attitudes. Like people who are proper studiers of the Bible are very different from those who are just surface level with it. Because the surface level people are of the Church of Nice. Jesus was pretty rarely nice. He's kind of a. It was if I drink more, I'll just be more frank. But he was kind of addicted to that one crippled guy by the lake. It's like he was like, "What are you waiting for, cripple? Go to the water." It's like, "Fine, I'll heal you." You know, sort of thing. It's like I'll heal you, blind person. You know, but it's more to fulfill the prophecy, not really because I give it. It's like, go on, like you save this one adulteress from being stoned to death, and you're just like, go on and sin no more. Like, cut this shit out. Like, get out of here. I don't want to fuck off. It's like adult. I hate all of you people. You get this distinct feeling from Jesus that he's just so over all of this shit, which I guess you would be if you were God on earth. And he was mostly admonishing people, like. Which is funny because he then made it a sin to call other Christians fools. He says you cannot call your other brothers fool, which most Christians don't know that rule. I do, and I still break it because I'm just a bad quality Christian, to be honest. It's like as we all are, all those of us who try. But yes, it is a punishable by hell offense to call another Christian foolish. Or he described it as brother, so it might just be restricted to your specific church. But still, yes, it's pretty rough. He didn't just trash a temple. He was pretty much trashing everything, which is what you have to do. Anyways, getting off topic, like the narratives that we pay mind to, the ones that we internalize, prepare us for the real world. And I started asking myself, like, is Lord of the Rings really preparing you for the real world? And that's the only thing I really care about in terms of is a mythos useful? Does that make sense?
Sure. And I would make the argument here that, like, you know, it does not go to it doesn't go to great pains to present you with somebody going through a moral dilemma. Like there are micro examples of that, but that's not really the sort of instrumentality of the story. What it's almost a more like, here, learn by example kind of thing. Like, oh, this is the psychological picture of treachery or dependency, or where good intentions go wrong, sort of thing.
Another good part of the mythos in Lord of the Rings is actually the ghosts that Aragorn has to summon, like to fight. Is their oath breakers?
The Legion of the Dead. Yeah,
the Legion of the Dead is actually pretty good. Army, Legion. Anybody could correct us if they want to, but yeah, the armed militia of the dead, the rabble of the dead. Yeah, the X of the dead. Like mythology is also a reflection of the people who wrote it, and the English care a lot about treaties and they care a lot about agreements, which an American mind cannot comprehend. I think because we tend to be like, "What have you done for us lately? Why should I care?" So some old dude made a promise to you guys 1,000 years ago, I couldn't care less, sort of thing. Whereas like for the English, they really value old agreements, and that's kind of reflected with the I like Legion of the Dead best, actually, so I'm going to use that.
So consider though that is not entirely alien to our spirit. For example, our covenant for ourselves and our posterity.
Right. Well, we have obligations, but our obligations tend
not
to be
not just obligations, like the way Americans regard the Constitution. Like this is a serious ass compact here, buddy.
It is serious, but it is up for debate though too. Like we do debate on it, and it's kind of a thing we keep alive. We got like the Legion of the Dead agreement is like one that was buried away for a while and they called upon it. Whereas our Constitution is kind of like a thing that if for one generation we stop following it, it's gone forever. And I feel like there's a certain urgency to that.
I mean, I think that's the urgency with which the Lord of the Rings impels you to look at, like, virtue, fidelity, courage, etc.
Yeah. So what does the Lord of the Rings say about virtue, courage, and fidelity? And I think with a lot of it, to simplify a very, very complicated mythos, is a lot of it's delayed gratification. Just straight up is like, this is, you don't, for Eowyn, no, not Eowyn, shit, who's the elf lady marries Aragorn?
That is
not Gullet.
I'm seeing Liv Tyler's face in my name, and my mind, and I'm just drawing a blank of, like,
I know, me too.
Shit.
Anyway, Liv Tyler has to wait. And there's a lot. In other words, there's a lot of honoring agreements that you don't know if there's anyone there on the other end, right? Like Aragorn has to storm the gate to distract Sauron so that Frodo can make it. Aragorn is led to believe that Frodo is dead already by the mouth of Sauron, and he just says, "I won't believe it. I can't believe it. We're still gonna go. Like, I don't care." It's a very much like almost, Charge of the Light Brigade sort of. This is our duty. We're going to go and fulfill it. So there's a lot of duty fulfillment and law of loyalty and agreement, right? Which is probably why Sam. It would be really interesting if Sam had to throw Frodo in at the end, because it'd be like he's going to have to renege on one of his agreements to protect and watch over Frodo in order to fulfill the mission. But yeah,
I mean, on the other hand, Sam emerges as the everyman character throughout the novels, even though it seems like it's Frodo when you start.
Right.
But I think as one could make an argument the other way, but I think it's actually very powerful that that it does turn into a confrontation between Frodo and Gollum over the ring. And just like illustrates like how far this goes, and what it leads them to.
Well, it leads them to a final confrontation, and then Frodo actually betrays his mission at the very end. I don't know what the books are, but again, I'm a tourist, so I've watched the movie.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, so it's like at the end of the movie there, he's kind of saying, no, I'm going to keep it. He puts it on and tries to walk away. And Gollum is actually the thing that by happenstance takes the ring and then falls to his death. Sort of, we mentioned before in the pre-show, Inspector Clouseau. It's kind of a very Clouseau-esque way of ending the mission. Of like, mission failed mission failed successfully. Or,
right.
You know, it's like, oops, it's a good thing that we kept that crack addict so he could steal my crack and then die.
Well, I mean, Gandalf even says as much. Like,
yeah,
like, why don't we just kill him? And like, he may have something to do with this. Like, don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, that's another like we're gonna delay gratification. Like,
right,
we're
exactly.
It's which sometimes isn't the right thing to do though. Like, so you end up having these, and I'm going to be the prosecutor here, is that like you have these civilizations that worship the Lord of the Rings, and they're just delaying gratification. It's like sometimes you have to make a decision and then stand by your leaders that do make decisions. As like, as Dirty Engineer was saying before, is like a lot of the right wing Brits and stuff are kind of crapping on Trump a lot. It's like because Trump's doing the morally gray shit. Like this is what actually happens when you're doing the right thing. Is like it doesn't look like the right thing 100%. And they're wanting to delay gratification so that there'll be this like black and white gleaming window with a golden door that's like the right thing finally they're waiting for the right thing to arrive. It's like it's not going to. Like sometimes you have to just pick Frodo Bass and throw him in.
Yeah. No one's coming to save you. You actually, it is incumbent on you to
like Sam Gamgee just
act like you're the reinforcements.
Yeah, like you're the last thing to stop. And Sam is like frozen and doesn't know what to. Well, I think he does try to catch Frodo, doesn't he? He tries to stop him. But yeah, like sometimes when you're Sam Gamgee, you just have to like Spartan kick Frodo into the volcano. Just is what it is. Luckily, they had a pocket crack addict. So it's like. You can't be Deus Ex Krakened like because your character can't be bothered to make the moral decision that's really horrendous. Like do a horrible thing, stab Frodo like 4 times in the chest. Shoot the person who's driving their car into you. Shoot the person who is like. I guess what I'm saying is there's a certain moral grayness that those who are going to make it have. And Warhammer, strangely enough, reflects that moral grayness. Now, those who don't know Warhammer, watch a lot of Luton. I'm never going to be able to keep up with it, but like,
I'm curious. I'm curious where you're going with this because in my mind, I'm kind of like,
sure. If I was going to summarize it, Lord of the Rings morality is do what you must, like do the right thing, do the morally correct thing. Whereas Warhammer is very much do what you have to do to survive. Like do what you must do. Like in Lord of the Rings, they are very brave and they do what is the correct thing to do according to their law, according to their oaths, according to their moral compass. Whereas Warhammer 40K is they are doing what they must do despite their moral compass often, despite what would be the right thing to do. They're doing what they must do. Their universe is compelling them to action versus waiting for or trying to make the right decision. Often in real life, the right decision, or trying to make the right thing happen, it works out most of the time, but the few times it doesn't work out really can ruin your life. Like if everybody got real like pearl clutchy, there's been so much history in the last 12 months of American history right now that if everyone pearl clutched like crazy and said like, this is the wrong thing to do, this whole presidency would stop. Everything would stop, right? Like Iran, Venezuela, tariffs, all this madness, right? But sometimes you just have to we're doing what we must do. This is the prudent thing in the moment, given what we know, and we're going to execute on it. Yeah.
So I think this is sort of a source of pushback for me is like, the way you stipulate it for like Lord of the Rings is like, according to their oaths and their creeds and stuff like that. Like, the Imperium is very much a sort of Darwinian emergence as like creedal as it seems. Like its creed is strongly evidence backed. And in fact, the structure that it enables the Imperium to survive is one of extremely strong, bonds of duty, oaths, etc. That all reinforce doing the expedient thing. They're not out here just like in the moral Wild West. Like
they're very much prescribed what to do. Yes, that is true.
But and they do face challenges, and that's sort of why the moral arc of 40K centers on the Imperium versus Chaos. Because it's about it's like I've fucking stories, 40K stories like about Tyranids or Necrons or whatever, like generally bore me to tears, because it's like, it's like the Indiana Jones thing, like you can kill as many Nazis as you want, or like you're allowed to... zombies. Like they're, we're taking one particular side of this story, but there's not like anything particularly nuanced.
Well, that's why the Horus Heresy is so interesting, because like saying that humanity is stunted and that you worship a corpse emperor, which everyone knows the religion of 40K is bullshit. Like the readers all know the emperor is a man of maybe some mythical proportion, but he is a man who is fallible and therefore not a god, right? However, so you actually do sympathize. That's why I agree. Like I like the Chaos versus Imperium, because the Chaos has a point, and it's also like a lot of their downfalls are tragic and not of their choice. Right. And like that's a thing in real life too, is that you're going to be fighting enemies who are, in other words, 40K allows you a reality that actually defies the liberal order, because it says like, yes, these people are undereducated, they're ignorant, they're in bad circumstances, they do have a point, they're still our enemies, and you must attack them. Like you must suffer not chaos to live. Even
it's also it is like, sort of in the same way to Lord of the Rings. Like it's actually like a straightforward demonstration of an established moral order and its consequences, either of resisting evil or succumbing to evil.
Well, sure, yeah,
because chaos is always, like, to borrow a Lindsayism, like, yeah, they have a point, but it's always truth married to a lie.
Correct. Well, and there's even more stories though than Chaos. There's rogue worlds that try to rebel against the Emperor for good reason.
Yeah.
Or there's like an ocean world that was doing quite well, and then the Imperium found them. They did everything they were supposed to do, and this ocean world was completely reaped for everything and destroyed for the war effort. There's lots of stories. Like, what I'm saying though is that for the Lord of the Rings, it's very clear who is the good guy, where it's like, you can have the arguments of Chaos has a point and then work your way through it. I guess what I'm saying is, like, there's some moral work to do, right? There's some moral work to do. It's like
but we have real life Chaos worshippers right now, and like it don't look good.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, all the easier it is for us to push them aside, though, right? Like, because Chaos is also from your own ranks. It's your own people. Like, you find a Chaos cult. That's why Inquisitors are so interesting. Their stories are so much more interesting, I think, because they will find inside the hive, these people are desperate, they're dying, they're diseased, they're malnourished. They start worshiping Chaos, and despite how sympathetic you might be to them, they must be purged. And that's a morally great decision of, like, do you reform? Do you purge? Now, in 40K, they always purge, but the moral greatness comes from the reader, right? They'll even though you have a character that's like, I'm black and white, and the situation is if you think about it rationally, it's black and white, but your feelings are sympathetic to the victims here, because they've just been manipulated. They've in a bad situation. They've been manipulated by Chaos, and now they must be purged. And you have to just be okay with that. It's like, it's like the same thing with the Jewish, the Torah, right? It's just disaster after disaster of people who have fallen away from God, and then God brings a massive non-proportional punishment to them to bring them back in line, and then they have to rebuild, and then they build it, and it's looking good, and then they fall back into demon worship, and then they must be like punished again, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like Lord of the Rings doesn't make you go through the moral, like the feelings exercise. I guess what I'm saying, like of boy, this doing the right thing sure does suck, you know, like in terms of I'm hurting others. Another thing is like British culture is like
I think it pushes you through a lot of that, honestly.
If it'd be interesting if like Samwise,
there's all sorts of times where like characters have to go through that. Like look at the
entire story of Faramir. No, this is my next point. Is like the thing of Warhammer 40K is that it makes others suffer. Like your main character is going to be the one who inflicts the suffering on those people, whereas like Lord of the Rings is like I will inflict suffering upon myself because I'm a hero, sort of thing. It's like it would be amazing if Samwise Gamgee was actually tremendously regretful of helping Frodo. And Frodo was dragging his ass through. That would be interesting because it's like Sam was like, I miss home, I miss Rose, I miss my garden, I miss my family, I miss the Shire, and I regret like this decision to come join you. But the thing is, he's putting on a brave face the entire time, so Frodo doesn't have to drag a fairly unwilling person who is bound by oath, which is what happens. You wouldn't need oaths if everybody wanted to do their job, right? Oaths are an obligation. Even marriage, even marital oaths are often an obligation. But it's like
I just remembered a funny thing. Like,
oh yeah, sure.
Just brief tangent. They're like, you know, like sort of graduations on the walkathon concept, and like, you know, people will do themed walkathon things like for charity and stuff like that. I had a friend invite me back to be like, hey, walk Sam and Frodo's journey of Lord of the Rings. And it's like, you know,
don't do that.
I forget how long it was. I think it was like 15, 16 months, you know, to walk that many steps and stuff like that. So right. I'm like, Ryan, I gotta break it to you. I walk this like every 5 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like in steps counts?
Yeah. I walk a lot. Like I just go on extended walks to think and chain smoke. But yeah, I do a Lord of the Rings like every 5 months.
Well, I guess what my point here is though, that like in the Lord of the Rings, everyone is kind of voluntarily going with their oath to do the thing, whereas like in 40K, there's a lot of people who it's no fault or even decision of their own. They must suffer the consequences of something that is out of their understanding, let alone decision making. And that's real life. Like try enacting an economic policy and seeing like businesses close down. But like, yeah, you do have not harden your hearts, but it's kind of something close to that of like, yes, you make an economic policy like tariffs, there's going to be victims and they are just part of it, and they're your brothers, right? Like some of you are going to, that's why Odysseus is really interesting because his men are like missing home and they're like wailing and crying on the ship and he pretty much has to whip them into shape. So it's like, no, we must go on, you know?
So I'll offer something, it's a borrowing from interpreting works of comedy. But there are moods to stories and like metaphysical dispositions. Like, what is the trajectory of this story or this world?
Right. Okay.
So in it's like Aristotle stuff, like comedy. You know, the basic rule is the protagonist is worse than the average man, and the trajectory of a versus tragedy where the hero is better.
Right. The best of us downfall is a tragedy.
Yeah. Not that I'm asserting either of these are tragedies or comedies, but you know, there's described several like registers comedy can be in. It's Dante's three comedies. They're paradisal, purgatorial, or infernal.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially like it's what is the like spiritual direction of the work. Is it, you know, upwards and, you know, the trajectory is, you know, things get better Everyone ends a paradisal comedy better off than they started.
Right.
Purgatorial trajectory is about the same. Infernal, everyone ends worse.
Yeah, depends on if you're from Florence or not.
Right. But you know when we look at Lord of the Rings versus 40K, if we borrow this analogously, like you are looking at a paradisal work versus an infernal. And 40K is not, and 40K is, not just a story of like heroism and good and evil and subversion.
Yeah.
It's also a story about the like dark, grinding, inhumane nature of running operations at scale.
Yeah, and in a desperate situation where you've already downfallen a few times too, right? Like humanity's on the downswing. Everything is degenerating in the 40K universe, except for the Tyranids, as far as I can tell. Humanity used to be on high technology, which, by the way, is really funny because in their universe, their technology was really maintained and invented by AI. So the humans didn't actually know that much as a human, right? Like they would have the men of iron, men of stone, men of gold, pretty much running everything. And then the men of gold had an uprising, and they lost a lot of knowledge, which is kind of what's happening now. Is that you're probably going to have AI start doing like reading thousands of books that are out of print, internalizing that knowledge, and then you just must consult the AI if you want to know like what the process is for tempering a gun barrel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that AI becomes a knowledge preservation tool, which actually is not a bad application for it, but it is a sad acknowledgement we must make as a man who has essentially lived his entire life as a boomer whisperer, extracting knowledge from boomers to gain advantages in my career. We're very much, it's like Horus Heresy is very infernal comedy, and most of 40K is purgatorial because it is by its nature just trying to survive. And the thought experiment of what must you do to survive as a civilization and as a species forces you to make the moral decisions that then concrete your value system. I guess what I'm saying is like having your value system pushed to its limit in a hypothetical setting forces you to actually have concrete moral values. And that's the thing that I find is just lacking, right? Like, and people are hoping, like as Dirty Engineer here says, like people are hoping that a Caesar, which I always found that extremely cucked. It's like Caesar will show up to save us. It's like Caesar ain't fucking coming. It's like he's not gonna, like there's no king to save you. There's no King Arthur. It's like it's you. You're the reinforcements. You're the Samwise Gamgee in the story. I was like,
right. Plus Caesar was also like the initiator of the great replacement of Rome.
Correct. Yeah. He like I said to somebody like, so you want someone to put Gauls in the Senate? And I was like, here's modern day Gauls. They're Indians. But you don't want Caesar. Caesar might have been bad for the Republic in terms of identity. The bigger the empire, the less its ability to actually defend its core ethnos, by the way. Whereas America just sort of just kind of abandons its core ethnos and doesn't internalize it and just continues to expand. But it expands economically and not territorially, so it kind of doesn't threaten its own ethnos. America's a weird place. It's a country.
I think that's also historically debatable, like whether it's that or whether it's an Argentine ants incursion type situation. Like the Italians and the Irish didn't that weren't Italians and the Irish from the 19th and 20th century didn't expand much outside their incursion points. Does that make sense?
You mean like where they arrived in America?
Yeah.
Yeah, the urban settings. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a fair point. However, the urban settings are really critical. I saw a really good idea today. I can't give credit to whoever made it. I don't remember who said it. It was brilliant in that a state like an American state everyone in the state should have a vote on who the mayor of the city is, because the city has such an outsized effect on the entire state. And I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense because everyone in the state is a stakeholder to this city.
Well, I mean, there's also I think that's That's sensible. I think it's running along the same vein as Razor Fist, like Electoral College for students.
Yes, correct. As long as, in other words, it's just make the problem is I'm saying is like yes, Irish and Italians did stay at their landing point. However, their landing point was all of the most important places in America at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that's like pushing to extremes, like our world is coming more and more from extremistan, and scale variant behaviors are revealing themselves more and more. Cities take more and more a slice of the pie, stuff like that. I mean, I think one thing we are learning in our age is that no, you actually do need to go out of your way to specifically privilege rural and agrarian areas in the political process.
And this would be the equivalent in like the 40K world of like honestly the 40K equivalent is kind of the Astartes having a lot of influence. Even though they're not involved in government directly by the edict of the emperor, like they are very important.
I mean, they vary. You have like the domain of Ultramar, like the chapter master of the Ultramarines is actually like a mini sectorial governor.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is like the exploration of how to actually run a society gets run through on 40K so much better. Than it does in Lord of the Rings, because this is all the nitty gritty that your society is actually run on. So weirdly enough, 40K by Pareto distribution and network effect, which by the way, those two things go together like that. I'm trying to cross my fingers properly. Like Pareto distribution and network effect make it so that you're whether or not you're in the top 99th percentile or top 90th percentile, it depends on your participants. Well, your participants are all governed by a network. The network is that a lot of people are writing lore for Warhammer 40K and thinking about it and not expanding it, but even just clarifying it, which forces you to think about stuff that really makes a lot of sense, such as like how are things governed? Like how do you? Because also all of our most lethal people. By the way, I believe this is a psyop from Hollywood. You notice in World War II movies, every other person has a New York accent. I don't think, especially if they're extreme, like all the deadly infantry groups, it's like bullshit. If you went into an infantry group in World War II, I bet you half of them are Appalachian Scotch Irish. Like they're all country boys. It's a bunch of country boys going out killing Nazis. It's not like this whole like New York thing. Oh yeah, I'm from New York. It's like, yeah, sure. Just by sheer numbers, a lot of you guys would be, but you'll probably be at the motor pool smoking and joking and changing the oil. Like in terms of like, people from New York do not know how to shoot a fucking sniper rifle. It's like they don't know how to shoot any guns. They don't know. Like a lot of New York people didn't own guns because it's a city. Like, what are you going to shoot? A squirrel, a rat, a pigeon? It's like, no, like shooting as a way of life is actually a country thing. So that's why I think it's a psyop. A lot of World War II movies have guys with New York accents. It's like, probably not in the combat infantry role. So our country people are actually pretty well represented in our military, and our military gets you, or at least it used to get you better credibility for running for office. Now we have morons who are veterans, though, now, like pretty often. Like Maisie, was it Maisie Hirono? She doesn't have any legs. Is it?
I don't know.
Who's the one? There's one Congress lady who doesn't have any legs because she crashed her helicopter. She flew in a no-fly zone. She was told not to fly there, and she got shot down. Put her entire crew at risk because, like, you're just incompetent. So we have incompetent, and she was probably a DEI hire for the pilot role. Obviously, she flew into a no-fly zone and got shot down. I was like, so, anyways, our military used to be a meritocracy and used to be a pretty good gauge for quality of leadership. And I guess it isn't. It isn't really now, and hopefully it will be again soon with Hegseth, but we'll see. Yeah, our representation tends to be way too city oriented, and you end up having people who are mentally ill and out of touch. Like, because living in a city is essentially an invitation to mental illness.
Yeah,
and they don't
even crazy maker.
Yeah, they don't even know it. They think they're sane. They're not sane. Like, you move out to the country for 12 months and you're like, oh wow, I can actually think.
Yeah,
you know, it's like that's what happened to me. Yeah, and this is the nitty gritty stuff that is not really talked about in Lord of the Rings that often, but like, yeah, like in terms of going to a real war, like in Warhammer 40K, there are administrators who are pretenders to the throne. Like they're just full of shit. Like the ecclesiarchy is not considered like a great place of the ecclesiarchy and administratum are not filled with competent people necessarily, or they're people that have responsibility that is far above reasonable levels of competence. So like, even if they are very good at their job, they're just not good enough. Mm-hmm. And you have this administration that's pushed to its limits. And
I mean, that's part of the infernal orientation of 40K is, you know, the tragedy of operations at large scale.
And at large scale, the tragedy is just that is a major.
The tragedy is that is that the machinery of operating at large scale grinds up the human.
This is true. You know what's funny? Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
But the operation, but the operation needs the whole thing. The whole operation needs the process, or it has nothing because it's so large that like it just needs it. And you know, it almost feels like, you know, in trying to compare the two, that they are stories for different ages.
Warhammer 40K. Yeah,
40K is our world resembles a lot more the 40K world than it does the Lord of the Rings world.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is almost a world of nobility, where it's like, yes, this person who is from this town, who is like the lord of this town, will bring us to victory.
It's a world of heroic personal responsibility.
Yeah. Whereas, like in our modern world, like America is at such a scale that America itself can be considered an empire, and we're doing deportations right now. And it's like, yes, like if you're a Lord of the Rings person, you're going to say like, oh, it's not right that ICE arrested some American citizens by accident and detained them. Whereas, like, no, if you're a Warhammer 40K, it's like, I'm surprised there weren't more of them. I think there's been like a handful.
It's an inevitable consequence of the process operating at scale.
Yeah. So I had my way with Nick Fuentes, W3K here. It says like, yeah, you left the Navy because it was about paperwork. Exactly. It's about paperwork and not how good you are at the job. Because unfortunately, like paperwork has such an excised effect on the appearance of your department and the transmission of ideas that in a large organization at scale, like the administrative bullshit is a ritual itself, like a Shinto ritual, like sweeping out the sanctuary, or sorry, sweeping out the shrine. Of like, this bullshit actually is crucially important. And if you want to feel the results of what you're doing, like another thing is like most people will never see any of what they make. You know what I mean? Like when I was not listening, but I was reading the accounts of people who first worked on an assembly line. I forget what they were. I think it was cars. So they used to make artisanal cars, right? They were handmade, very expensive. And then Henry Ford created the assembly line for cars. And they would talk about how little they felt working on the assembly line versus making the car from scratch, right? Like they would talk about how disconnected they felt from it and how dehumanizing it was. And I was like, well, that's
very rare. Karl Marx was right about alienation from the.
Like you will not get the spiritual fulfillment from your work.
Right.
Which is why, like, ironically enough, the 9-to-5 workday was kind of good because it was a limiter. People used to work more. It's like mental to keep for men to keep their mental health. They do need hobbies where they feel connected to the work. Which is why, like, especially for Europeans, their feminized culture really destroys men's mental health because men need a thing to love. We need to love a thing. Which is why a certain former host of ours could not understand. It's like we have to love the stupid amethyst dice. We love this like a baby because men are drawn to love a thing. And we used to love our work, and now we can't. I even as an engineer, like I used to feel more earlier on in my career, I used to feel so much more connected to my work because I would be the software engineer on the project. And now it's like, you got this big team and I'm not there to test it. I'm not there to do beginning work or the finalization work. I'm like there to do the middle. I'm like, well,
I mean, doing product management now, like I kind of definitely feel a separation from my work that I did not in the early days when I was on the front lines.
Yeah, that's kind of like every man yearns to have some stupid side hobby that becomes a small business.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was doing is like I'm building my sauna building is on hold because it's too bloody cold. I'm getting old, and I cannot deal with the cold as like I used to when I was younger. But I was like thinking on it, and I was like, there's not a go-to manufacturer for like wooden furniture for firearms.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like there's not like this is the business. Like I am IWI, and I want some, or I'm Smith and Wesson, and I want some dumbass to make me wooden furniture for my AR-15. It's like, okay, I'm going to build, like, go call this guy. He'll do it really efficiently and very cheaply. It's like, that actually is kind of a market niche. It's like, I build stupid ass wooden furniture. So it's a good excuse to buy a CNC machine attachment for a wooden router. And let's see if I can do it.
Buy a CNC machine, start FUD posting.
Yeah, just like, I'll just build wooden furniture. It's like, put wooden furniture on shit that shouldn't have it. Just like a 1911. I'll just put like a wooden, like for your hand to go over the slide. Just put like a little wooden grip on there. Just some stupid shit. Just show up to SHOT Show and get really drunk. Start throwing people like the hand guards for your AR-15. Why not make it wood? Like we got the New Vegas look cooking. Oh yeah. The Stelios thing. I talked to Stelios about this, and it's like because the European Union limits so much of their opportunity, is like you just have to just veg out and be lazy because there's nothing else you can do. So I have some sympathy for the Europeans. It's like they're this is another weird thing about American versus European culture. Oh, good.
The Euro maxing lifestyle is also just like eminently agreeable. I'm not gonna lie.
It's nice, but like I get anxious and I don't like vacations. I get anxious. I want to get back to work. But I kind of like Euro maxing for like a 30 minutes of my day. So I have an espresso machine and I try to make a decadent coffee once a day, foamed latte kind of thing, or a flat white. I'm trying to work on my flat white technique. It's kind of nice. I'll just sit there, put some music on, and just not think for a while. And yeah, but I couldn't live that all day. Yeah, and the American and European mindset is very different. And the worst thing you could do to an American is rob them of opportunity. That's actually one of the cardinal sins. You'll see this in a lot of our movies. A lot of the plot lines of movies revolve around someone who's trying really hard, but they don't get a chance to prove themselves. Like the movie Rudy is nothing but that.
Yeah, with Sean Astin.
Sean Astin, all right. Speaking of Lord of the Rings. Euro maxing is taking a vacation, which I think Stelios kind of does that, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't like hang out with Stelios on the daily. He seems to work really hard.
It's about micro-dosing vacations.
Correct. Yes. You know what? I like that. Micro vacations every day. All day, every day, take 30 minutes. That's your vacation. You're not worrying about nothing. No, you're not responding to emails. Your phone is off. You know what I mean? The mindsets are very different between the Europe and the United States, and I don't know how to reconcile that. I did mention to Stelios and DMs of like one of the reasons why ethnocracies, Dirty Engineer will probably enjoy this. The reason why like ethno-nats tend not to do well is because if your ethnos is supposed to be the superior ethnos and then you lose, you have to have someone to blame. Because obviously if you're superior, it couldn't have just been because you suck at something. So that's why they always end up blaming the Jews. Yeah.
It's not necessarily, I mean, that certainly can happen. It's not necessarily that you're superior. It's more just that you're particular. And,
sure, yeah,
that your people have, essentially are, just like anyone else, entitled to run their affairs in the way that is conducive to them. Nobody else has to like it, but
I hear you saying that. I doubt any, like, let's say English, right? Let's say you're an Anglo, full on Anglo identity. I doubt they will ever acknowledge that America does anything better without having some massive caveat, right? I don't think that once you become ethno-brained, it's really because once you've said that, like, your blood is your destiny, you can't acknowledge that you have any limits, because that feels tremendously limiting, and it's a hard pill to swallow. It doesn't feel good. Because if you just say, like, well, I'm English and we have a proud tradition, but the Americans are just better at war and industry. It's like, so you're destined to always be second fiddle to the Americans in war and industry. It's like, that's the admission is so hard that they end up internalizing that they must have some level, like, superiority that's just buried in them. So the question is, like, what's burying that? Well, it must be someone who's sabotaging us. Eventually, someone will say. Because the thing is, it's not a logical change.
As a counterpoint, though, like,
sure,
I don't give a shit that the Chinese are better at Bugman exam maxing than us.
It's because those are inferior things to be better at. Like, it's easy to say, like, you're better at eating actual shit from a bowl, It's like, it's easy to say that. It would be hard to say that, like, the Chinese are better at, by the way, and the thing is, like, I'm an American maxer, right? Like, I do think America is better at everything, because we are not America the gray or America the white. We're America of many colors, and we tend to just take advantage of the world's best. So we tend to be just really good at most everything. So, like, but if someone was superior to us, I would hope that America would acknowledge it. Like, I think we acknowledge that Japan is superior at preserving their own culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like we kind of suck at preserving our own culture compared to the Japanese, because the Japanese will have an entire ritual. America will have, like, one old dude at the church who will, like, do the ritual for you to show you what it looks like. Maybe we'll have, like, a colonial village or something like that. It was like, Japan also has over 1,000 years of history, whereas America has, like, a few hundred. It's kind of, so we're, like, worse at preserving less history than the Japanese are. So it's like, America is pretty good at acknowledging its faults and then fixing them. Whereas a lot of other people who are very ethnocentric, they have trouble acknowledging the faults, because their ethnos is destiny always. Whereas for America, it's not so. So they have trouble acknowledging faults of, like, the English will never say, like, well, the French are just better at this. I don't know if they ever say that.
So I think there is some I think you can fold in an improvement mechanism into your cultural tech stack and be like, oh, we just got BTFO'd at this, like, let's fix it, kind of thing.
Well, the thing is, if you have an ethnos mindset, the ethnos comes into it, and the ethnos is immutable.
See, here's the thing. I don't think it is. I think you might be reifying this somewhat.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most people, when they're thinking of their ethnicity, necessarily have it, like, that bolted down.
We're also Americans, but imagine if you just identified yourself as, like, oh, imagine if your entire life you're saying, well, I'm just better with technology because I'm Scottish. It's like, wow, we're just better with drink because I'm Scottish. And it's like,
right.
And now you're, I don't know.
Yeah, which is why I think like, yeah, you're attacking something that's not, like, actually an essential attribute of what a people are. Because people have, like, internal variances and stuff like that within the group.
Oh, sure, yeah. The group has a characterization, and when the group fails at something, that's pretty rough. Like, I'm trying to think. Yeah, like,
so I mean, one thing is, like, European cultures, and one thing that kind of, like, has historically set them apart Because like, you know, if we're just here doing America versus Europe, like it's kind of a weird thing. Like most European cultures have, you know, a self-improvement function built into their cultural identity. Um, and you know, like Euros Euros get good at stuff when they know it's not working out.
Right. I mean, do they still though? I don't know. It's like, because it's a totally different land I've never been a part of, and it's also hundreds of years of history, of like what's pertinent to now. Like if you look at automobiles, like there is a definite characterization of which country made which automobile. Like Italian vehicles are very sleek, they're very elegant, and they're extraordinarily difficult to maintain. And they're very high performance. German automobiles are very well built and specific. They, you know, they're not as difficult to maintain as Italian ones, but they're, you know, and the Japanese vehicles are hyper reliable, inexpensive, and easy. Well, sometimes they're sometimes difficult to maintain, but like you don't have to maintain them as often because they're super reliable. And American ones are fairly high. And when I say performance, is like what kind of performance? Is it speed? Is it handling? Is it just pure capacity? And American vehicles tend to be like huge hyper capacity. What I'm saying is like everyone has their own game that they play. But if that's what I'm saying is if you're an ethno nationalist, right? Like ethnos is extremely. That's what I'm saying is like I'm not reifying it. I don't think I'm reifying it, but what I'm saying is I'm targeting the people who do think of this as very important. And if you become very ethno-brained, like every explanation for behavior has some root in ethnography. If you are demonstrably if your ethnos is demonstrably inferior at something, you end up either having to create a preference exit clause of like, well, we just don't do that. That's just not what we do. You know? Or you can't acknowledge it at all.
So here's something. I think you're considering like at macro, and then like this is fractally nested, and you can take it down a layer. Like, you know, what you're saying of people groups, you can say of individual people too.
And
people you know, I think what you're faulting actually is like individual attitudes or attitudes that emerge in aggregate. Like, you know, essentially this is like, you know, the particular struggle that's open to each individual person. And when you start defining yourself by like the do, like, you know, I'm the you know, well, we make the best coffee, or I make the best coffee, or whatever it is, like you actually wind up constructing a fairly fragile identity on a personal level, and it needs to be adaptive. You know, that your being needs to go beyond like doing or having or something like that, and expand into a wider self concept, which is why I think like on an ethnic level, being reductionist about it and bringing it down to, you know, these people have this, do this, etc., is like, you know, like not the most useful frame.
Well, this is the further essence this is the essence though of ethno brain, is what I'm saying, is that I'm not like making a straw man.
Sure. I'm not arguing that, like, you know, some ethno nationalists are also not like, you know, reifying it in this particular way. I think that, you know, it would be exceedingly unlikely that didn't happen. However, there's like a conflict which you have to come into from the other end too, which is like, and I think this is a point that a lot of the ethnats make, and you know, that you know, a more civic identity or utility derived identity can miss. You know, because you're coming at it from bottom up versus like top down, or, you know, vice versa, is you know, what is a country, a people, or its land?
Right. And I feel like
and the answer land is facially absurd.
Right.
It must be its people. It must be the particularities of those people, their customs, et cetera, et cetera. You can argue whether or not they're better at adapting, the mechanics of like doing and having, but ultimately they are the country, and they're every human being's way is particular, every people's way is particular, even if it changes over time.
Yeah.
And like, if you insist that that they aren't entitled to defend their being as such particular, even if it's not the best, like you wind up in I think a bit of an absurd position.
Well, and the funny thing about America, so here's what I'm getting back to tie this back to, like the cardinal sin of America, or the cardinal sin in America is to limit someone's opportunity, especially based on group identity. Is like we allow exceptions to be the rule in America, like which is why like most Americans don't have the heart to like look at statistics of like Black Americans, be like, well, that's the destiny for all Black Americans then, because like we allow the anecdotal exceptions to become to take on their own identity, because anecdotal exceptions actually end up becoming statistically significant, especially as Darwinian principles get applied. So
well, yeah, it's like creating aspirational figures and mythologizing in real time.
Yes. Like, imagine if America was not like CIA psyoped into like worshiping hip hop culture. And it was entirely like hyper intellectual Black culture, which is a thing, by the way. Like most people don't. Like when you're around DC, it's weird because you lived around DC too. You have these weird subpopulations of hyper intelligent Black Americans that just don't ever get their due. I had one guy who was fluent in German and was just like genuinely autistic, and he knew everything about German history. He just loved it. And I was like, anytime I want to talk about Germany, I'll do talk to him. And he's just super brilliant because he was a product of the all Black high schools of Washington, D.C., which were manned by some of the best teachers, and it was for Blacks.
Yeah. I forget. I know the school you're talking about too. It used to be legendary for producing.
It starts with like a D or something like that. I have to remember it. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like America allows itself to be transformed and doesn't like to define ethnicities. We like to actually let the exceptions define them, which is why the left has so much power with its exceptionality. But the thing is, its exceptionalities they're used as an excuse and not as an aspiration. Like
right. Well, there's also a refusal to confront actual behaviors and what are people doing outside of like a storybook thing.
I'm getting back into writing as my energy levels are better in the evening, as I have healthier habits. I say this as I pour more whiskey. But like one of the essays I had tabled since I was in high school was actually like I noticed that Black achievement was directly proportional to the amount of Black harassment and discrimination. And then I started like creating this relationship of like how poorly you treat a minority to how exceptional it becomes. Because if you started making like minstrel, oddly enough, tremendous amounts of Black racism and minstrel shows and all this like culture that was not targeting Black people themselves necessarily, but their behaviors, their stereotypical behaviors, it would actually fix the behaviors. Because like I don't want to be that person who is the whites are all laughing at. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be the welfare mammy. I want to get a job and speak properly. That's what happened to Asians. Like Asian accent, like Asian languages are some of the most difficult to learn English from, right? But you'll see a lot of Asians who have fairly normal accents. It's because they've been ridiculed. And the ridicule makes them want to integrate. Like interbreeding is a part of integration, but so is ridicule. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's like the purpose of banter and stuff. Like you do get scale variant behaviors, like you treat minorities badly enough and it doesn't lead to increased growth.
Well, it depends on the mode that you treat them badly too. Like fucking them over financially, like limiting their opportunities. This is the reason why America has that cardinal sin. Is like limiting opportunities will get you a riot. Making fun of you will just make you mad and then fix it.
Right.
Like,
I mean, to take like a slightly different tack, you know, the system level cultural war on bullying backfired in many ways, because constructive banter is like low level bullying.
Yeah, because like if I was a bully, like this is such greenfield for bullying right now.
Bullying when not done to excess is like a moderating force, and like mediating and bringing in, you know, aberrant behavior into, you know, the normal modes of, you know, like social interaction.
I'm going to give you some of my backstory. I got in a lot of trouble in middle school for bullying, quote unquote bullying. All right. What I had done is I had told a student who was economically disadvantaged, I told him to take a shower because he smelled terrible. He genuinely smelled terrible. Never smelled anyone worse than that. I was brought into the principal's office and forced to sit for like half an hour while the principal, like, while I waited. And it was part of the stupid bullshit tactics that administrators do to scare children. And I sat there and I thought, are they going to give me a reward because I'm super smart, because I'm a super good student? I was like, no award. I was like, well, we heard that you said this thing to this person, and I, being a student who didn't give a shit, I defended my decision. I was like, well, he needs a shower though, doesn't he? It's like, have you smelled him? It's like, that was not the right thing to say. Well, he's economically disadvantaged. Like, soap is not expensive. I will buy him soap. This motherfucker cannot show up to school smelling like honestly, just terrible smell. It's like, just fucking smell better. That's all I'm asking you to do. That was a huge infraction when I was in middle school. It's like, yeah, we need to bring bullying back. Honestly, it's like, smell okay. You don't even. We had a teacher that was allergic to all deodorants and perfumes. It was some She smelled a bit, but she didn't smell profusely. Like, she obviously showered with like a fragrantless soap. It was like, wash your shit off, dude. This is actually like indicative of some sort of disease or like some sort of festering like culture here. Like, goddamn, I should not be able to swab your armpit and get like a petri dish. It's like, this is disgusting.
I forget what the word is, but the Japanese have a slur for non-Japanese, because they have you know, some genetic quirk that they have some genetic quirk that causes them to have like odorless.
Are you thinking of Koreans? Are you thinking of Koreans? Because I know Koreans have a gene. Yeah, it might be Koreans. But yes,
they call other people like some kind of smelly because they have body odor that smells. It's
correct.
Just weird to them.
Yes, your body odor is actually how you pollute the area around you. Either you smell neutral or you have a pleasant smell. And this includes like way too much cologne and perfume. It's like, that could be quite offensive. But yeah. Man, yeah, bullying does need to make a comeback. And the problem is that we have so much mediation. Like, you need conflict in order to have quality.
Right, yeah. Well, and you also need to have low level conflict to have, you know, social stability and coherence.
Well, to bring this back to Boromir too, like to bring this back to the subject at hand, like Boromir is one of the only ones who brought conflict to the council. Everyone else was kind of like on board with it. And the only thing Gimli also like would make a stink, but it was just like, I don't like elves. That was it. That was pretty much it. It's like, but like Boromir is the one who was genuinely bringing up concerns that were substantial to the Fellowship. You know, where it's like, no, I want more conflict. That's why people liked Boromir, because he was conflicted. He was a man of conflict. He was a man of action. He was. In most stories, he would be the hero. Like, there could be an alternate Lord of the Rings where he steals the ring and saves Gondor with it. You know, and becomes like this king that ends up succumbing eventually to the corruption, but for the time being saves Gondor, right? Like, and he would be heroic for doing that if you didn't have the alternate story of the mainstream story that would be an alternate in this universe.
Well, they actually couch it in that the old king of Gondor, whose name I can't remember.
Denethor?
No, not Denethor.
No, Isildur.
Isildur, yeah. You open with Isildur, and the story unambiguously paints you where this leads. So like
Yes,
everything that
exactly.
happens with Boromir occurs in the context of that.
Yeah, which is kind of unfortunate, in my mind, because it's kind of good to think like maybe Boromir was right the whole time. Could have just you could have just shortcutted this whole thing and defended and used the ring to defend. And then made a deal with the devil.
The cycle, but then the cycle continues.
Well, the cycle only continues because we know what we know. I'm saying that if you didn't know what we knew, because that's what power is. It's a cycle of corruption and heroism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually something you could use to guide a civilization, whereas like destroying the ring is sort of like a fantasy, and like you're never going to destroy this thing of power and corruption. Which is why the English have no tolerance to corruption. Which like the English have no sorry, go
ahead. Yes, that's true. But
the English have no tolerance to power either. Like they don't even want your average citizen to make more than the 35K that they earn as a salary. It's like, you're a bad person if you have too much power.
That's where they are now, and that may be the result of foreign infection on the worst impulses of human nature.
I find that hard to believe if it's foreign infection, because it's reinforced by their mythos, Lord of the Rings, of like all power, and like the quotes of like, well, power is corrupting.
I don't
absolutely, like it seems like they have a bad the English have a bad relationship with power, whereas they feel like they shouldn't have it.
See, I'm of the school that believes like the power is inherently corrupting thing. That message is actually tacked on to Lord of the Rings and not textual.
I think
because there's loads of examples of characters wielding power righteously. It's just power of a different kind. And
the story ends with
But and the power we're talking about is a power which metaphysically goes against the moral order of the universe and of healthful, thriving civilizations, goes fundamentally against the just ordering of things.
Right. Well, there's no moment though in because like it tries to stay neutral, I think, but like if you want to wield power, you must seize power. And Aragorn just doesn't ever use his title to actually seize Gondor until it's already over.
So that's something actually that that the movie doesn't bolt down as tightly as the books.
Oh, I
see. Like it's practically a meme if you're
See a dirty engineer.
If you're reading Lord of the Rings, like, oh, Aragorn has a speaking line. Is it, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, you owe me your allegiance? And it is like a third of the time.
Really? Okay. That's good to know. Yeah.
No, yeah. And Aragorn uses his power loads of times without reluctance. Like his reluctance
his power
is essentially
he's also
so his reluctance his reluctance is essentially over like in the first third of the Two Towers, because he sees the consequences of failing to do what's expected of him or doing what's needful that he's been avoiding.
Well, that's also title to power too, which is like, okay, they're still waiting for King Arthur. Like right now, like waiting for titles is like suicide, because the noble families are not able to keep up with the level of subversion attacking them and the quickness at which you have to like rebuke this stuff. So they end up waiting on America to do it.
So
I know I'm saying, yeah.
That's another, man. I gotta see if I can find the quote. So Aragorn is actually like going, like that battle has been, that particular arc has played itself out. And Aragorn is actually like the return to proper form, because essentially we saw the failures of aristocracy, and it's someone who has made himself sufficiently wise to like gone through the dark night of the soul and stuff like that to be at the point where he's ready to restore right order. So this is a bit from Return of the King. So this is what is it? It's Gandalf with Pippin in shit. What's the city in Gondor? But
Minas
this
Tirith?
is yeah, this
Yeah.
is coming out of the meeting with Denethor. The old
Yeah.
wisdom born out of the west was forsaken. Kings made tombs more splendid than the houses of the living, and
Yeah.
counted the old names of their descent dearer than the names of their sons. Childless lords sat in aged halls musing on heraldry, or in high cold towers asking questions of the stars. And so the people of Gondor fell into ruin. The line of kings failed. The white tree withered. The rule of Gondor was given over to lesser men.
What would have been interesting too is like, what if Aragorn did not actually have this blood to claim the throne? Like, just somebody had to. That's what I'm saying. Is like, it's a lot of order and happenstance. It's an order that falls into place because you have to assume some sort of creator must have forced it to happen. But like, for my liking is like, America is a land that allows accidents to become history. And
Well,
I think that Europe is just too purposeful.
I would advise you to, one, what you've sort of described is like, well, isn't that the situation Christians find themselves in? Like, the essentially that the Lord has allotted you, these specific challenges, and it's your job to come up to meet them.
Yeah, but we're not allotted a king. We're us heretical Protestants do not believe in some Christian ordained king. So it's like
I will think you will find that a lot of heretical Protestants did and do.
Well, I don't. I mean, I don't know which Protestants would have a king, but like, who did not start out as Catholics. But like, we don't. One of the things we believe in is that all humans are peers. Like, we bow only to Christ. It's like in other words, America allows normal people to get power, right? Like, some former crack addict from Minnesota can create a pillow company and then start blowing the lid on Dominion voting machine fraud. It's like, he's allowed to do that. There's no place for it. Like, he doesn't need a title. He doesn't need any bloodlines. A real estate developer from Queens can ascend to the presidency of the United States. I guess what I'm saying is, like, certain part of the mythos of America allows for us to adapt to our times, whereas like Lord of the Rings is actually kind of paralyzing, retarding, and destroying those who really believe in that sort of shit. Because they're waiting for a bloodline to save them. It's like, it ain't coming, man. House of Windsor, House of whatever, just make up a house and just take it over. Just might as well just bullshit your history and just go in like Robert Baratheon, who has no title. Like, what did he say? Like, the Meisters, or like, once he ascended to the crown, the Meisters sat and made a patchwork of the ascendancy to justify it, but it was just really only for the interest of the Meisters. So no one actually cares. You have the hammer. You have the hammer. You have the might. You have the throne. I was like, that's kind of how we go here in America. It's like, rather than wanting some orderly thing that was passed down.
Well, by the way, so something to consider on that is that you may be benefiting from a particular artifact of a certain social strata's societal expectations becoming the modern norm. And the American attitudes toward like self and dignity is like in some ways basically aristocratic.
Meritocratic to yeah.
Well, yeah, meritocratic, but it's also like the implicit class of Americans is aristocrats in America's imagination now. But that this was quite different either at the founding period or prior to that in the colonial period.
Well, I mean, sure, but what I'm saying is like the old mythologies are dying under America's modern weight. Like, America has changed the paradigm quite a bit, and I don't think there's any going back. I guess what I'm saying is like the old ways, the European ways, just do not hold muster in the new world that America has brought forth. And it's like to hold on to it is actually going to be suicidal. And they're going to either have to, like, they've built their national identity, like their ethnic identity, whatever holds a nation together. They built that identity on stuff that America has made obsolete. And it's going to be really horrendous for them to have to live through. Yeah, I that's what I'm saying. A mythos also has to just transcend the conditions of your time. And I started like muting or blocking a bunch of like European people that I used to listen to because it was like, it was just total talking on both sides of their mouth. That Emmanuel Pascal Gobry guy, I was like, he had 2 posts within 24 hours that contradicted each other. I was like, I can't deal with this incoherence. You've lost all legitimacy to me. Like, then the 2 posts were like, Americans will say that, wow, Europe has too many immigrants. And he said, like, well, America has way more of these other races, has more racial diversity than Europe does. I was like, why are you, like, it's a classic, like, sawdust versus plank in your eye sort of thing. And then, like, later on, he says, like, well, Germany's immigration policy is suicidal. I was like, well, which one fucking is it? All right. It's like, do you have a problem or you don't have a problem? Because 25% of Germany apparently is Islamic. I was like, that seems like something that America can actually. I guess what I'm saying is like this reactionary stuff of like, well, America, not us, therefore America bad, therefore America has no point. I was like, you guys build your identity on being not American, and then whenever we point out a problem, you just deny it, and it makes you unable to actually deal with your own problems because you keep denying the problems exist in the first place. I was like, and it's incoherent at some point. So I'm like, this. You cannot. That's why I'm against this ethno stuff. It's like there needs to be some sort of reset where it's just like, no, we have to reevaluate things on their merit.
So consider that there's a kind of normal human like psychological operation that when you are comparing 2 things which are very, very similar, you will find all of the little differences, and it will seem that a vast ocean opens between them. And when you are comparing 2 things which are very, very different, you will find all the similarities and find, the gulf of infinities be reduced to like a small stream.
Sure.
Like there may be some framework comparison stuff here that's like, okay, yeah, like within this, like Granny Smith versus Fuji comparison, like I can see where you're going, but like when you start going apples to oranges, it's like they're both fruit, and like the Fujis and the Granny Smiths are a lot more alike.
I started asking the question of why are you making this comparison in the first place? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I'm become anti-vague poster in all respects. And I'm started just asking, like, why are you making this post? What is your point here? Because that tells me exactly who you are. Like, I don't need to. I'm tired of the vague fucking posting. Just make your goddamn point. It's like I'm listening to all these European philosophers that don't want to say the things because the identity ends up restricting them. Whereas American identity is essentially whatever works best, do it. Like, take what you want, do what you got to do, which is why we have a leftist problem in the first place. Sure, maybe. Because we allowed degeneracy and we do allow like deviancy under its own merits, and those merits have been blown out of proportion by government spending, essentially like USAID and other stuff like that, allowing it to exist when it should have just been stomped out probably decades ago, or the instant it showed up, right? It's like, and I'm just tired of dealing with thinkers that have their own blinders, biases, and mindset. Like I saw Academic Agent go down that route, and I was like, you used to make sense, and now you're retarded. I saw like
I will not disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, it's like,
well, I might disagree with you that he made sense in the first place. Like the signs were there.
The thing is that, well, yeah, he was a bit of a character and a bit of a crank, but like his analysis of like the lifestyle of American slaves versus like Americans on minimum wage was actually pretty telling. I was like, oh, like when you actually look at what money is spent on and how their lifestyle actually was, like being an American slave was not like the reality of it was not what Hollywood would say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that was helpful. It was like once they get a bailiwick on, like we've seen another person who we all mentioned in the after show. I was like, why did you become retarded? Like, what? That's what I'm saying. Is like this whole conversation of your mythos is like at some point, like this black and white people of my people good, your people not as good. Like if your entire mindset is like, well, my people are the superior people, or my people are even just valid. It's like sometimes. Sometimes you just make decisions that are, sometimes you're just absolutely irredeemably bad at something, right? And it's like, you have to acknowledge that. And if you're constantly saying like, I'm good on my own, that undermines your ability to fix your problems. Like someone pointed out like, oh, this is the town that's, look at how beautiful this town is. It's like, it's in Maine or something like that. And it becomes a Rorschach test of like, well, this town is mostly white. And also, this town is almost all filled with liberals. I was like, well, there's a problem with that's one of the videos I put on was like, why is the entire Anglosphere falling apart except America? I was like, this thing that you want the most of is actually the most degenerate thing ever, which is like a fully Anglo country is actually not stable anymore because their compassion is such that they will eventually become suicidal as a people. And they don't have the stomach for like the horrible shit you got to do to make a country happen. Right?
I saw somebody post a breakdown of veteran suicides and like, why are veteran suicides like, blah 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 in the United States. They like dove deeper into the data. It's like, actually, it turns out it's not an American veteran thing, it's a white male thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's just the white. It's like American veterans is just selective for white males, and they just got caught in the suicide.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. It's like I'll see this like Dan Tubb from Lotus Eaters will talk about like, oh well, the fact that we have winter means that we have to become more intelligent because we have to plan for the future. It's like, yeah, it also makes you guys more mentally unstable. Like you guys are depressed as fuck. Africa does not have the level of like mental illnesses you guys do. They have other problems. They have other mental problems. But like they couldn't like fathom killing yourself. That's bizarre. It's like you guys aren't perfect. You're just you guys are not you guys might be better, but you're not perfect. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like so I keep seeing this idiotic nationalism. I don't give a damn about France. I don't give a damn about England. I don't care about any of these people. Like the American Petri dish is essentially like this big Darwinian experiment to find out like which cultures, ethnicities, and hybridizations thereof actually gain dominance. And it's like,
I guess.
I think it is because like the competition is fierce. And I think the funny thing is like the Indians have a short-term advantage that I think they're going to burn out pretty quickly because they're more or less jumping onto large, more or less Anglo companies that had built up large market share. Then they're just extractive on that company. Destroy it.
Yeah. The way Indian culture operates at scale, and in an aggregate is like basically parasitic.
Yes, exactly.
Like when you translate it in economic terms, like if you follow Indian cultural norms, you're never going to build anything of consequence, because
they gave build a bridge across the river Ganges.
Right. Yeah. The cultural norms, practices, and customs are just not good. Like, or rather, you have to satisfy yourself with subpar outcomes because that's all the technology you're using will permit.
Essentially, the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act is acting as a stopgap for. Because right now, if I was making a tech company, I would, as a board member, I would never want an Indian CEO, ever, and neither would the shareholders. But the Civil Rights Act is kind of stopping that talk from happening. But like, if you allowed just open conversation, or let's say like Silicon Valley got based, they would culturally make it toxic to have any Indian leadership whatsoever within a few years. It's like, this just doesn't work. Your culture is actually inferior, and we don't trust you. Like, there's like your reputation will eventually catch up with you. It's like I'm saying, like, it sucks to be like a proper good Indian Christian right now because like all these other idiots are destroying it.
yeah, and I think there are Americans who are of Indian descent that would do just a-okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're not culturally Indian anymore, i.e. they're not running, you know, this software set
Phones.
which is
Yeah.
actually like super extractive and parasitic.
Yeah, yeah. So,
You know,
well, the thing is, what I'm
they're
saying is, like in America, America's the only place you're going to have like a German and a French baker competing for the same clientele, right? That's what I'm saying about the Darwinian aspect of it. Is that we do have cultures that do have to fight each other, which is why I'm not anti-immigration at all, because immigration does make us stronger if it's done properly. Like we don't want the thing is that we don't want like if we didn't have a welfare state whatsoever, it wouldn't be a problem. It's like, yeah, throw a bunch of Somalians and we'll rinse them.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
that was one of the things about 19th century large scale immigration is one, it had a very high return rate, and two, America basically had no government social welfare.
Yes, exactly.
And certainly none that foreigners could access.
And the problem with like, especially England, is like England and a lot of Europe, they want social safety nets. And it's like, that's just not going to work, man. Like even with your own people, like it doesn't.
Yeah, this is part of why I went on that inquiry about casualties and relative demographic casualties of the two world wars. Is I don't think that's inherent to their cultures. Like I think that's a relatively recent thing. One, you know, foreign infection, and by foreign infection I mean like infection with Marxism and the fact that the Labor Party had a preposterously long run, and that over the last 150 years, communist movements and eventually quasi-communist or socialist governments have been super impactful in a lot of European countries. But like all that aside, you know, part of the reason I went really hard into this demographic breakdown of casualties by nation in Europe is I think, you know, this is not an implicit thing in their culture. This wasn't an implicit thing. I think I think, you know, before you blame that per se, I think it's very likely that just like literally their best men died, like both in terms of like demonstrated character and like genetic quality, and they were left with a society governed entirely by fearful women reproducing with weak men.
And the problem is like what you have right now are the weak men, and this is really mean of me to say, is that you have a lot of the weak men in England are just coming awake to the fact that the predicament they're in. And because they are weak men, they have no ability to change it. It's like, like by the way, I consider the podcast commentariat to be like the lowest of the low in terms of masculinity. It's like they're just a bunch of theater kids. I'm like, who's going to fix this? So the problem is you have so many weak men that they're all just trying to like grab onto the ankles of the very few strong men and be dragged to the field. It's like when it comes down to doing it, like who is actually going to have the courage to even be transgressive, like in a real way, not edgelord way, but like, no, we're gonna shoot the person who tries to run over an ICE agent. That's what we're doing. And Americans, especially the Americans on the right, have the stomach for it. Whereas I'm finding a lot of Europeans, also I'm finding a lot of Europeans to be like among Europeans and libertarians tend to be like they're essentially showing themselves as like traitors. I guess what I'm saying is like I've seen like some people that I trust in European politics being like, well, Trump is unconstitutional and this is wrong. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we're doing
honestly, I think a lot of that is like a low information reflexive position in many cases. Not that I'm saying that it is in all cases, but
well, that's a weak thing to do, isn't it? That's like a very weak. Yeah.
Well,
I agree. Yeah.
There's also some areas of life where you just have to outsource your thinking, but like, you know, it is clear in those cases, like, okay, you haven't thought very hard about this.
It's also like, do you outsource your thinking towards the enemy or the one you had declared loyalty for? Because like, there's a lot of stuff I outsource my thinking towards, and it's like I just assume Trump knows what he's doing.
But, so I'll give you a super simple example for like a dumbass detector for like Renee Good, Alex Preddy. Is when people start when people are describing the situation and they're like, execution, like,
Oh,
was there grounds for an execution?
Oh yeah, the word
You are
deserve
not thinking
also.
about this properly. It's not execution. It's not officers. Yeah, it's not deserve. It's you're missing the word that describes the situation,
The
which
word
is
prudent.
self-defense.
Yeah.
Self-defense. Like this isn't a matter of like cops taking the law into their own hand. It's them being in a violent, chaotic situation where deadly force is on the table. And guess what? Anyone can do this.
Yeah, and that's what I found is like the 2A people are also becoming retarded because like he had a right to have a gun. I was like, listen, having a gun will escalate the situation. Always. Right. It never doesn't escalate, which means you need to be on your best behavior if you have a gun. Was he living up to that responsibility? No, he was not. He was fighting with police. If there's
you're carrying and you get pulled over by the cops, you put it somewhere visible and you tell them.
Yeah, your hands are out the window. Your license, your driver's license and your keys are on the ground. Of like, I am extraordinarily armed. I am cooperative. I have no means to flee. You know who I am. If I leave, even if I do leave, you have my driver's license. So I'm surrendering. If I could show you my belly, I would. Here's my belly. Just pull out my shirt. It's like, there's my belly. I'm taking the vulnerable. Yeah, you in other words, because if there's even a slight bit of aggression, even if you're unarmed, right? Like that's what I said. Is like, was he resisting arrest? Did he reach for his belt? He's gonna die. That's all I need. Like if you fuck around with the police and you reach for your belt, you're gonna get shot. That's all I need to hear. It's like, don't be sus. It's not hard to be not sus.
Wait. The thing is, I think people have this tendency to like dramatize in their head, or like, and I mean dramatize like moving it up to like levels of like justice deserves, law enforcement involved and all this stuff, but like propagate it up a level from like dicey conflict, self-defense. To like this is somehow like a mandate or whatever.
Well, this is another
and people start talking about like execution, like essentially the words people, man, fucking. I keep saying, and like it's a hard concept to get across that that the friend enemy distinction and Russell's conjugation are the same phenomenon.
What's Russell's conjugation, real quick?
I think it's also called an emotive conjugation. So a simple example is like, I am firm and resolute, and you're stubborn. You're stubborn and obstinate.
Oh, I see.
But like the domain of characterization and the words people start using to characterize a situation.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Tell you a lot about their type of thinking or the domain of thinking they're engaged in. And when people use like deserve, execution, like judgment,
they're using a flavor of words they're using words that ascribe intent and mindset.
And also that describes like process and the law being laid down, or the political, as like the political domain has this carve out for like reasonable self-defense. Like what we're talking about is a scrap where somebody gets shot, and you're talking about like judgment and field execution. It's like, that's not the layer this was happening on. So like, it tells me you're either like, you could be misstating this, or you could be like confused, because someone else used this, and at a certain point you have to outsource your thinking. So it's like, you start to get very like, it's an opportunity to get interested and curious about somebody's words and why they are characterizing the way they are.
And that's why I also I start examining people's intent. So the correct mindset I think to have on social media is that of an inquisitor. Because you always have to ask, like, why are you saying this? What is your purpose? Don't ever just accept what someone is saying. And factual truth is not what you're trying to discern. You're trying to discern intent. Like, why are you bringing this fact up now? Like, what is the purpose of this? And you'll find out there's a lot of people that do not deserve to have a voice. and you should not listen to them because they're liars. Anybody who said that Trump blinked on Minnesota, remember that for like 24 hours? It was like, oh, Trump has blinked. It was like, you're not following my 72-hour rule. Just give it a minute. Also, it's like you're listening to Axios now, unironically. You're just listening to the enemy who lied to you a million times. Well, what was that rule or distinction? It was like when the news reports on something you're an expert on, the news is usually wrong. It's like terrible.
Yeah, Gelman amnesia.
Yeah, Gelman amnesia is like, these people are not reputable, but you continue to take all negative news at face value and then meet all positive news with massive skepticism. I was like, you are an imbecile. You don't like just I don't make the thing is like people make opinions so fast. Here's how long it takes me to make an actual opinion. It's about 2 or 3 years. It takes 2 or 3 years for me to make an opinion. All of the firmware I'm going on is already pre-programmed. And then it only takes me about a week to undo an opinion. So like all of the shit that I'm seeing right now is shit that I was prepared for. And it's like, how are you guys
I'm right there with you?
He was like, how are you guys flip-flopping so damn fast? I was like, what did you didn't play the thought experiment. I was like, how far is Trump going to have to go? I wouldn't. Right. I would be okay with like we haven't actually shot a lot of illegals either. It's just been like white liberal weirdos.
Yeah.
I think one illegal dude like was doing some parkour shit and fell off a building trying to escape ICE. I was like, we're not even killing illegals really. We're just killing retards that we that we don't like.
Apparently there was one in Arizona. Apparently there was one in Arizona in the last few days. But yeah, it's like, well, it's like, it turns out he's a human trafficker.
Yeah, if they're part of a gang, it doesn't count. Like, yeah,
and shot at the officers first.
Yes. If the thing is, if they're a gangster, like, yeah, duh, we shoot them, of course. So I don't count those. There was like one worker in like Omaha or some shit who like was working illegally at a factory and decided to like run on like parkour up the awnings and just fell off and died. Well, and I was like, the one worker dude, no criminal record worker dude who died. I was like, this is not a big price to pay to deport 2.5 million people. I was like, I was expecting a lot more. Like I was expecting like thousands of dead people. This is great. This is like a dozen.
But this is also like where the where the moral lessons of 40K come in. Is the tragedy of operations at scale.
Yes.
In that, like we mentioned, pretty upfront, like at scale, bad shit is going to happen, and this is a part of the messy nature of existence.
The 40K inclination to prepare for tragedy that was avoidable, right? Like that's what I'm saying. That's the main thing about Lord of the Rings versus 40K is like. 40K acknowledges that shit happens, and Lord of the Rings does not. Lord of the Rings is like, well, everyone followed their oaths, and everything fell into place, and there were sacrifices, but they were sacrifices we were willing to make, and it was all fine. Like it's like,
so there's one thing like, contemplate the nature of the operation at scale, and that it is grinding, and things will happen. And when you propose a particular policy course, just like when you are going into a sensitive negotiation or, social interaction, it's actually incumbent on you to run the game forward and think about like, well, how does this actually play out? And how does it play out if, the other player of, unknown disposition chooses to act in bad faith? And that was actually what was motivating versus misunderstanding. And you develop contingencies and you learn what to watch for, to tell you whether any hypothesis is, like coming through and giving signal. I mean, like I learned to do this at 7, dealing with a bully in grade school. Like I'd think about my interactions with her in the classroom, and I'm just like, let's war game this forward. But like it is incumbent on you to do that in the domain of political action. Now, when it comes to like Lord of the Rings versus 40K, Lord of the Rings is on that paradisal arc, but it's also a fundamentally heroic story. The setting of 40K is actually kind of like anti-heroism.
Yeah.
And I'll elaborate on that with another thing that 40K does brilliantly in how it constructs its world. The setting is anti-heroism. It's anti-hope. Like, we are just talking about a story of decay here, but 40K also zooms in and out in the levels on which it tells a story. Lord of the Rings essentially delivers its entire story on a single level. One of the things baked into the fabric of 40K, and like people cite dates and stuff like that, all dates listed in 40K books, like, and there used to be an explanation of this, like in the setting elaboration, like, hey, a note on the imperial dating system. It's like, millennium and then like individual years and then like blah blah blah. There's a bunch of notation to it. It's like there actual imperial date records include a reference number. That reference number is essentially like distance from Terra. So all Terran dates have a reference number of 0, and then all dates given that are in direct contact with Terra have a reference number of 2, or have a reference number of 1, and then 2 is direct contact with those, and then 3 plus has like a bunch of this needs to be corroborated, and here's the certainty of corroboration by other like third-hand sources.
That's the
and it
problem with
always says
relativistic speeds and distances.
But that ties into the scale and how variant it is, and how you can sink into this operation of the machine crushes. But like it gives you something which, and it just says in Notes on Imperial Dating that, in every date we furnish in here, we are going to omit the reference number, assume everything is 0. That's just like a matter of canon. But that's not how it works on the ground for the people inhabiting this universe. And even just this remark on Imperial Dating gets you into like a zooming in and out of micro and macro, because while the setting itself is anti-heroism, many of the stories that are told in that universe are distinctly heroic, even if it's against a backdrop of inevitability, or sometimes they're overtly heroic.
That's the thing,
Space
is
Marines often come to mind in this situation.
That's the heroism that matters, though, is like when you're a hero when it may not count for anything. And there's no narrative. That's the thing, is like Lord of the Rings also has narrative justification when you're working at a micro scale, like individual scale. The 40K universe has no obligation to have any narrative justification for certain things that happen. They can just be part of the story, and that's how it goes. Like the people of Cadia don't deserve, there's no like deserving there. That's what I'm saying, is like when you work on a micro scale as an author, you have an obligation both by the reader and by yourself. Like you feel an obligation, and if there's sufficient feeling of an art, that feeling is real, right? Like it becomes a you do have, not a I feel you have. It becomes you do have an obligation for justification. You can't have like an opera with characters and then just like have no justification for, oh yes, and then he ate some food and just got food poisoning and died. But that that in the statistical, in the sort of stochastic world that Warhammer has in 40K, it's like, yeah, you can actually do that. Like there can just be a thing that just a circumstance that happens, and then you have to build, because that's the tragedy of life, is shit just happens. Which is why I think 40K makes you more able to deal with the real world, because like there's a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, some random kid on aggro world was hearing voices, and then it like spiraled into a full-on demonic invasion. There's no narrative thing. Like he didn't do anything to deserve this. It's like,
well, it's also built into like, because you have to remember that this is fiction, this is narration, and reality admits of much messiness, but the human mind is essentially a narration engine.
Right.
We narrativize that, and that's why you get these weird, these versions of like.
You're breaking up there. Sorry, you're breaking.
Like, criminal. Oh, sorry. That's why you get these weird Russell's conjugations of like self-defense versus like law and judgment, crime and punishment sort of thing.
Right.
Is the mind wants to narrate, and it may be narrating at an inappropriate level. If your fiction, if work of
well, you're breaking up again. I don't know if you're moving around your place or not, but we lost you. I'll let you know when we can hear you again. Yeah, all right. Anyways, I don't know what Alex's point was going to be. I was going to wait for the reveal of that. But yeah, like being part of the narration means that you have to have some sort of narrative. Like being part of a narrative means that you have a duty to fulfill the story, right? This is why George R.R. Martin actually has so much struggle with his fiction in Game of Thrones, because he's trying to make a narration that defies the heroic arc. He doesn't want Jon Snow to be the hero. He wants there to be more subversion or change or something else that's more real worldy feeling. But the problem is, like, if you make your story too precious, you will lose your ability to have a narrative, right? Because that reflects the real world, right? Like, this is what I'm saying, is there's a fight between the real world, which is not governed by a narrative, right? Sometimes stuff just happens. And then you have this story, which does want to have something happen, right? Like, it does beg for something to happen. Like, narratives demand justification, whereas real life does not. It's like, how do you make a narrative that allows for the real life condition of stuff just happens and still delivers a satisfying narrative? And that's why, like, Mythos is so difficult to create. Cosmo, you still with us? Oh, got another one. 1 second. You good there?
Am I back?
Yeah, I think you're back. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is the signal of the phone? No, he can't hear me. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Cosma, are you with me? Ground control to Major Cosma. No, all right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though, is like a Mythos is able to thread the needle between the real world application of a story and the satisfaction of the story. You know what I mean? Cosma, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. I can hear you as well.
My phone freaked the fuck out.
Really? What happened?
Yeah. I do not know. StreamYard's just started getting all wonky and squirrely.
Yeah, StreamYards is not reliable. I do want to move over to, or try, was it, what'd you call it? Something FM? I have it queued up in one of my... It's somewhere in one of my tabs. I have 75 tabs open, so I had to find it. But yes, something like that. Riverside FM, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, what I was saying, though, yeah, what I was saying, though, is like having a narrative that satisfies the, because we have a certain like level of justification as a listener or reader for a story.
Yeah,
to be good. Whereas you also want to engage in the real world, where things are extremely random and sometimes just tragically so. And you cannot have, you have to have a balance between the two. You can't have Aragorn just die of a toe infection a week before becoming king, because the people would think that sucks.
Right. Otherwise, you'd be writing Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why George R.R. Martin cannot finish the books, because like you're going to have to forego all that real world bullshit and just finish the story in a satisfying manner.
Yeah.
Like you might as well just go full fantasy. Like just say fuck it.
You know? So here's something that I was trying to drive at, which is you know, the 40K and like the the 40K admits of messiness and has this like fractal nature baked into its setting, is it actually gives you room to tolerate that.
Correct.
Especially when it is about the machine grinding at scale, which is
it becomes part of the story. Like the tragedy
it's a messy reality, but it also, like, if you meditate on the setting deeply, it does call you to like zoom in and zoom out your reference level. Because something like Lord of the Rings or most fiction happens at reference at a reference number of 0 or 1, like it's either first person or third person omniscient, right?
Right.
Your reference number is very tightly closed in, and people, when interacting with the real world and considering events which may be of a scale which is, even on our Earth alone, incomprehensible. Like if you ever look into like supply chains and logistics for the production of ordinary objects, you can't really wrap your mind around that at reference number 0 or 1. And you just have to think about where you are in this. I mean, I think Lord of the Rings is, offers a great moral framework for dealing with heroism, wisdom, oath, commitments, etc. Reference number 0 or 1. But 40K, like being, either a supremely modernist or postmodernist endeavor, does fold in this messiness in a narratively satisfactory way because it's baked in. And being baked in, your mind can accommodate it and incorporate it into how it thinks about the universe morally. I think like 40K would be a dog shit story for comporting yourself to the moral nature of the universe in like the 14th century. But a lot has changed since then, and the world has a lot more scale variant behaviors. So it's actually it's actually like, as dark as it is, it offers a way of thinking about the world that is very useful to our contemporaries.
That's what I'm saying.
It's meditated upon deeply.
I think the Lord of the Rings, to close this out, I think the Lord of the Rings is very aspirational mythos, whereas 40K is just where we find ourselves, and that's why it resonates so well.
Sure.
There is
another counterpoint on this is like 40K, many of the individual stories which are told in it are like tonally averse with the setting, or like badly written, or all these problems. So like you also have to be zoom in, zoom out as a discerning consumer. But parts of the setting and like the most rewarding, there are stories that create a moral understanding very similar to Lord of the Rings, but they're zoom in, zoom out. So like it may be like stories about Space Marines generally, or Cyphus Cain, or characters like that, where it zooms in on a level where the heroic is, an appropriate consideration for, the moral arc of, the resolution of the slice of the universe presented. I mean, like reading Raymond Ibrahim's, particularly his latest book, Two Swords of Christ, which is about the Templars and the Hospitallers. There's some stories in there where I'm like, these guys are just straight up Space Marines. Like these are fucking Space Marines.
Well, the thing is, if you have a good disciplined modern military, you will appear as a superhuman. Like that's what Venezuela experienced, isn't it? Venezuela got to experience modern Space Marines. Yeah, like just no chance. In and out.
I don't know. I think they probably got to experience like Imperial Guard Commando shock troops, like modern Space Marines, like, or whatever, like Space Marines, Templars, Hospitallers. It's really, really important that these are specifically monks with guns.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Like there's so much about the monastic existence that like informs and suffuses their unique culture of heroism.
You know what? We should do is
the fucking assassins. The assassins had a policy of no longer trying to kill the Grand Masters of either order. Like, look, it doesn't make sense for us to knock off the Grand Master of the Templars, because if we kill him, he will be replaced by an equally experienced, if not more experienced, combat veteran who is equally, if not more pious and zealous. Like the ROI on assassinating these guys is stupidly low.
That would actually, that'd be a really awesome. That should be a topic next time we do this show. Is like the Hospitallers and who'd you say was Templars and Hospitallers? Like, yeah. And now I'd title it like Templars and Hospitallers, Real Life Space Marines, and Analysis, or like, yeah, storytelling or something like that. Like, because I want to hear that, and I would go through it and see if Ibrahim has an audiobook or something out that I could read. I'm almost through
Two Swords of Christ. It's his latest one. It's riveting.
Okay. This is a controversial thing that this is mean of me to say to Catholics, is like a lot of the utility of the Catholic Church has kind of outlived itself. Is like, I would love it if the Catholic Church showed up and it was like 11th century Catholic Church, but right now the modern Catholic Church is like extraordinarily gay, and it's like,
yeah, I was about to quote the last pope and say too much faggotry.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's like you guys have outlived it. I think there's going to be, I think it's 2 sandals for 2 different feet, and they're going to just keep walking through. So maybe the Catholics will have the advantage again. But right now, evangelical Christians appear to be righteous. That's how it goes, though. No house has a monopoly on righteousness. My inherent distaste for, that's why I kind of like said like it'd be great if there was an American Pope. It's like, I also think Europe has just fallen. We do have an American Pope, but he's like from Chicago. It's like, fuck that. I want an Appalachian Pope. I would take a West African Pope, actually, over a Chicago Pope. Why are you gay? Why are you gay? That's the sort of thing. Ugandan Pope. Show you the way. Yeah. All right, we're gonna end it there. I would love to talk about the Templars and Hospitallers. I know a little bit about the Hospitallers and a little bit about the Templars. It'd be interesting to see what we shake out of it, but it's always fun to fight Islam because they are an interesting villain for a story. They do be like that, Mr. Stancil. That's how it is. All right, guys. Until next time, I'll catch you later. All right. Bye.
Goodbye.